Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kristen Weardon Show. I am so excited for today's episode because today we have an amazing guest. Her name is Noelia Voigt, and she is the current Miss USA.
Hi.
Thank you. I cannot believe you are in my chair. This is so exciting for me.
Oh, thank you.
As a former pageant girl, I grew up watching the Miss USA pageant. I was probably 7 or 8 years old. My cousins, we would watch it from beginning to end. And here you are.
Yes.
This is so exciting.
Oh, that's so crazy. You say that, and I also feel like I relate to that in a way. I grew up also watching Miss USA and Miss Universe, and I am a Venezuelan American woman. So I was actually the first woman of that descent to be crowned Miss USA. And being Venezuelan, that's a huge part of our culture is pageants. So yeah, it's wild even for me to think back on like you and I share a similar experience of growing up watching it, and now I'm in this position and here we are.
So can you share with me how you ended up, what your journey was like to Miss USA? Were you always into pageants? Is this just something that started because you wanted to be Miss USA? Tell me how that happened.
Right. I had always wanted to compete in pageants since I was a young girl, but surprisingly, even though my mom is from Venezuela and pageants are a big deal there, she didn't want me to start competing at a young age. And now in hindsight, I appreciate that and I understand where she was coming from just as a mom. She didn't know how I would respond as a young girl being told like if I didn't win that it had to do something with me personally. And if it was just a gauge on physical beauty, she didn't want for that to kind of start an unhealthy trend, I suppose, in my brain. So I appreciate that because I don't even know how I would have responded. But I kept asking her until I was 16 years old. And finally, when I was 16, she was like, you know what, fine, you've been asking for it this long. I think you're old enough now. Let's go ahead and meet with a local director and just see what it's about. So we met with her and she explained to us how heavily involved we have to be in the community and how it's a really great stepping stone for young women entering their professional careers as young adults or college and things of that nature. So my mom and I were really open to it. I competed in my first pageant, which was just a local prelim for the Miss USA system, and I won. So that was really like the beginning of it all. And I continued to compete over the years. In the USA system and other systems as well. Eventually, I came back to the USA system to compete as a Miss. I competed twice at Miss Alabama USA, and both times I was first runner-up. Then I moved to Utah. I won Miss Utah USA, and then I won Miss USA.
Wow. Okay. That is quite. See, I understand that though, because when I was younger, I was surrounded being in Florida as a Floridian, a lot of pageant girls and a lot of younger, the younger ages. And I really didn't get into it until I was older. My mom kind of had the same view. We had somebody in our office who their daughters, young daughters were in it. And she's like, yeah, I just don't want to see that put on your self-esteem at such a young age, processing how you're going to deal with that.
Right.
Because it can be a lot if you're just growing through your self-esteem. And then I started, just a little sidebar, my girlfriend was in pageants. She was like 20. She's like, oh, come be in this pageant with me. I don't want to be in a pageant. I was like 15, 15 or 16. And I ended up winning. And we were in the same division. And I got the bug.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I didn't have a friend after that, but
that's terrible.
I know, right?
Oh my gosh.
And so it was kind of like a double whammy.
Yeah.
You didn't even want to do it. You tried it, but then you were okay at it.
Right.
And I won my division, so that's how I got the bug.
Right. Well, I mean, things happen for a reason. You obviously were meant to be there, meant to enter this world, and look at where you are now.
It really does help, though, because I don't know that I've ever wanted to do things like this. Being behind a desk where I was headed at that juncture in my life. So I think it does help grow a part of our personalities and plays out a different part of who we are.
Oh, I completely agree. I used to be very shy as a child, and I could have never imagined myself, even though I wanted to be on stage. I saw Miss USA, I saw Miss Universe, and I was like, I want to do that. The thought of it terrified me. So it was this weird back and forth of, why do I want to do this? Like, if I'm so scared to get up in front of all these people, then you know, where is this coming from? Where is this want or desire to try it coming from? So, you know, I grew. Then I, of course, was 16 when I first competed. And then at that point is when I really stepped out of my shell. So I think had I started younger, maybe I wouldn't even stuck with it for that long and gotten to the point where I'm at now. I just believe timing is everything and that things happen for a reason.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I agree with that a lot. So, well, we covered your experience. Oh, now here's one that we talk about this a lot. Body image, confidence, things like that. And there's the swimsuit question. And I was having a conversation in another pageant system, and they were saying how they would have more contestants if there wasn't swimsuit. And it was the pageant system I competed in. And I said, but I didn't have a problem with swimsuit, me personally, because I'd gone through the fitness journey already. I was there. I was confident in my body physically at that point. And I said, but what's the difference? Like if you're confident, it goes to me, how you take care of yourself as an overall person. And your presentation on stage. It's a kind of a confidence thing, not taking away from anybody who doesn't have that journey. But if you're on that journey, so how do you feel about it? What are your thoughts on it?
I agree with you entirely. I personally have never had an issue with the swimsuit competition. And I understand why other women might feel that way completely. However, I definitely have won pageants before where my body wasn't like the most toned, the most physique, like, you know what I mean? I think that it has so much more to do with what you said, the confidence aspect of it. Because even at Miss USA, I felt very good physically, but I was not like, at the end of the pageant, this actually wasn't aired, but at the end of the pageant, there was an interview winner, a swimsuit winner, and I believe a gown winner. And Texas won the swimsuit portion of the competition. And that was something that was completely like, if you were in the theater and you were at the finals night of Miss USA, you were the only people that saw that. It was not put on the CW. So all that to say, like, I still won Miss USA and I didn't have the best body there. But a lot of people said to me afterward that they loved my swimsuit performance because they could feel the confidence, they could feel like my energy and how that translated. So I feel like the swimsuit portion of the competition it's not a bodybuilding competition. It's not who has the best toned legs, arms, abs, whatever. It really is about like the overall sort of confidence that is being exuded. Like, how are you working the stage? It's meant to be like a more fun part of the competition. Because evening gown is meant to be more slow and elegant and poised. So swimsuit is like, just have fun, like show the judges how you like to have fun. And that for me has always been what it was.
Well, I think you had a key word right there, presentation.
Yes.
Because there's some people I see come out, and I've also seen some international pageants that how they are different in their presentation, and I'll make a comment, they're like, no, that's how we do it here. And I'm like, oh, sorry. Yeah. And in their swimsuit, they're like everywhere walking with their arms, their legs, their hips, it's all going all over the place. And I'm, oh, wow, okay, that's interesting. But it's between the confidence and the presentation. And I guess you just pick the pageant system that works for you.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
not everybody has swimsuit anymore.
Exactly. And that's actually one of the most wonderful things I think about the world of pageantry is that there are so many different systems. There's something for everyone. Literally every age group, like anyone like who's a mother. Now the Miss USA system has lifted the rule on that, but before there was divisions that were strictly for misses and for mothers, and so I just think that there's so much more now to offer for women.
No, I think you're right. I think there is a pageant for everyone. I've seen there's Miss Curvey, there's Miss USA, there's different age ranges now. You were saying about the Miss USA has changed a few things there even. What was that?
So the Miss USA organization has lifted the age limit, number one.
Okay.
Number two, they have now allowed mothers and married women to come compete. Okay. So before it was you could only compete up until 28 years old and you couldn't have ever been married before, you couldn't have ever had a child. Now they're opening the doors to all women.
Okay, so there's something for everyone even in there.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yes.
I love that. So let's talk about balancing roles and responsibilities, because I'm assuming you do more than just Miss USA, or is this like a year off where you're just doing Miss USA?
Yeah, I mean, I was doing stuff when I was Miss Utah, but since winning Miss USA, I really wanted to put all of my focus on that because it is a once in a lifetime experience and there is an expiration date on being Miss USA. So I am focusing entirely on that right now and kind of just setting my sights toward the future and seeing what I can do. My background was in interior design and also a little bit like in the property management industry. I had gone to real estate school and I passed my class actually and was getting ready to take my state exam. But then I got into a car accident actually the month before I was going to take the exam. And I won't, get too much into it, but I did have like a brain injury. And so my neurologist was telling me, your brain is like any other part of your body. You have to let it heal. So take, time off. He told me no school, no work. So for over a month, I had to put everything on pause. And then, life went on. And then I ended up moving to Utah. So I didn't end up getting to take my real estate exam in Alabama, which is where I was at the time. But that's kind of like the mishmash of my professional background. So I think it would be fun one day to try and have like a TV show about interior design or some sort of social media platform where I get to connect with people about that and tie that into my love for community service and finding families who are like in need of a home makeover, trying to partner with, big brands that are also passionate about giving people a home and trying to create something like that for them.
I saw that on your bio, and I thought that was a great combination from the real estate field, because that's my background, 30 years in selling.
Amazing.
That I've used a lot of my time in helping people find their first home or trying to help them navigate, especially back in the day when there wasn't a lot of people living in Florida, going back a little ways, I'm my age. But when you go back and a lot of first-time home buyers, and sometimes it would take them a year or so to teach them how to get the money together, or some certain programs they have to take classes. So that journey is really something that I don't think a lot of shows portray nowadays.
Exactly.
It's all very flashy, but they don't see it's work to try to get that first home.
It is. I mean, it's a lot of work to get there, especially depending on the market. We saw kind of during COVID and maybe a little bit after, there was like this crazy buying frenzy, and people that were trying to buy their first home were having a really difficult time doing so because they didn't have the money or the resources to like fork out an extra $10,000 to try and stomp on the other person's offer, and
they couldn't take the battle.
Exactly. It was too much. So it's crazy, and I think that it's important to teach people that are my age, like I'm 24, I'll be 25 this year, how the process should be of buying your first home. When should you start saving? What's the best way to save? Kind of, living within your means also, because I've heard the term being thrown around a lot of like being house poor. So like you have a great job, but then you buy a house that it's like really hard for you to make ends meet. And
then still furnishing the home.
Oh my gosh. I mean, what are you going to do?
Things in it.
You're going to buy the house and just sit on the floor.
Right.
I mean, it's just.
So you can take them through that whole journey.
100%. And then of course, like the interior design aspect as well, making it feel like your own home. Because it's rare, especially right now, to find a home 100% the way that you want it to be, design wise or aesthetic wise. Right. A lot of houses will need some sort of renovation. Not necessarily like because it is going to fall over, but because people want to make it feel like their own.
Your own aesthetic.
Exactly. Your own aesthetic. So if you're going to buy a house for the first time and, it's not ticking all the boxes for you aesthetically, also saving money and going on the journey of like, okay, I bought the house, but now let's put some money aside to make it our own.
How has the title of Miss USA impacted your personal life?
Oh my gosh.
Do you have a personal life?
I'm very blessed to say that I do, in fact, have a personal life. It's been crazy, absolutely. And I mean that I know that in the past there have been Miss USAs where it's been so go, go, go that they had to compromise a bit of that. But I do have a balance, which is really great. I'm actually going tomorrow to go fly and look at apartments with my boyfriend, who we've been together for 6 years this year.
Wow.
Because he's graduating from college, and so he's accepted a job offer in Virginia. So we're going to look for that. So, luckily there is that balance where I am able to go and do something really important like that. Okay. But it's been crazy in the best way. Of course, I've met some really cool people. I've gotten to experience really amazing things. I recently got back from Mexico doing a trip with Smile Train, which is an organization that Miss USA partners with. It's an organization that helps to raise money and awareness of children that have cleft lip or cleft palate.
Right.
So they help pay for the children's surgeries in those countries. So, you know, I could go on and on about some of the experiences that I've had, but it's been very eye-opening as well. Like, I never thought that I would even get to the point of being Miss USA, not because I didn't believe in myself, but because I grew up watching it so much. It was like my brain got used to me watching it happen for other people. And so when it happened to me, I just was in utter disbelief that, you know, I went from watching it in person and on TV to being the woman that was crowned. So yeah, personally, it's been crazy.
And you've been able to balance a personal life.
Yes.
Which some people it's hard for, because I mean, it's a big responsibility being Miss USA.
Yeah, and you know, we're in a transition period this year with our leadership.
Right.
So we're all kind of learning together and trying to figure out the best way to run the organization, and you know, appearances and events to get me into. And I just moved into my apartment a few days ago. So we're kind of working on those logistics as well.
That's a transition, new place to live, right?
Yes, yes, absolutely.
It's interesting you mentioned the Smile Train, because years ago, probably when I was about your age, it's one of the people that we would volunteer with. We had local dentists and doctors who worked with them back in the dating myself back in the day.
No, it's a wonderful organization.
No, they do a lot. I love watching what they do, and how much that they dedicate of their dollars.
So true.
Every dollar they raise, it's a very, very high percentage. They fall in one of those categories, and it's been like that for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
So it's a great organization. I love that you guys partner with them.
Me too. It was amazing. I'm like dying to go on another trip with them again because it was very special.
Yeah, the kids are amazing too. To see their smile change like that.
I know.
When they have the clef and they're kind of hiding, and then they look up and they see it for the first time. You're just like right there.
It's very, very emotional.
Yeah.
And to meet the children, I mean, we got to observe their speech therapy program as well at the hospital. So we got to meet a newborn baby who literally was a week old when we met him, who has a cleft lip. So he's going to be getting surgery at some point. But first they're going through like the prosthetic process. And then we got to meet children who have already had their surgeries and then we're in the speech therapy program. And then we got to meet children who have had the surgery, but they have to get ready for another one. So we got to kind of observe all sides of how children are positively affected by this organization.
Yeah, I can't say enough things about it. It's wonderful.
Me too.
Wonderful. So you mentioned earlier that you're of Venezuelan descent.
Yes.
And on your bio, it talks about how immigration is important to you. Can you explain what all that means to you as far as the immigration? Because I know there's a lot of stuff out there in the world right now. And so I'm sure you're getting it from both angles.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's hear it in your words.
Yeah, I mean, it is a polarizing topic, and I know that. You know, some people feel very strongly one way about it, other people feel very strongly the other way. So for me, it's more about sharing the story of like my family and how, you know, my mother immigrated here 30 years ago or close to 30 years ago. And the process for her was much different than it was for a cousin of mine, like my first cousin, who immigrated here 3 years ago. And it's because there is a crisis now, it's being handled a lot differently. And to see the trauma that my cousin suffered coming here and it being such a stark difference between like my mom and my cousin was honestly very heartbreaking. And I know that it's not just her going through it. I mean, it's thousands of people going through it. And I think I just want for people to understand that I understand that part of the crisis is that there's a lot of people coming in that don't have pure intentions by coming into the country. Right. But for people who are like my family, who work very hard, they're a great contribution to society here. I believe that it's important to remember that the people that are coming here and like seeking asylum or they're fleeing persecution, it's because the situation in their country is not safe for them. It's not an easy decision for them to make, to leave the place that they were born and raised, the only place they've ever known, the only place where they have really friends, family, and their community, to get up and go somewhere else where they don't have the same thing. They don't have the same opportunities and things of that nature. So I kind of just want to raise awareness to people that, when I lived in Utah, the governor in Utah is pro-immigration because he did a mission trip in Mexico and got to, see the way that they live, see how they are and how they do contribute to society. And so I just feel that if there was a bigger conversation, open-minded, collaborative, positive, all of those things, maybe we could kind of come to a resolution about what's going on. I'm not saying it's easy. It won't happen overnight. But that's kind of my stance on it. And a brief story that I'll share is I just was flying back from Mexico recently, and I had a layover in Houston. Well, on this flight from Houston to Birmingham, I was sat next to a woman who, only spoke Spanish, and she was relieved to hear that I could speak Spanish. So we started talking, and she opened up to me and said that she had literally just gotten out of like a facility in Louisiana and was going to Birmingham to start working. And she was crying, telling me how she had to leave her whole family behind, how like traumatized she was because of everything. And I literally texted my sister as I said, hey, I'm about to go up in the air. I'm with this woman right now. What can we do for her? Can we find resources? Like, help me with anything, because I'm not going to have Wi-Fi in a second. So before we even landed in Birmingham, and we finally landed, I turned my phone off airplane mode. I had texts from both of my sisters with websites or resources for the woman. My oldest sister, who lives in Birmingham, had like 3 job interviews lined up for her.
Wow.
I asked her to go to baggage claim with me because she had nothing. She only had a little drawstring backpack and the clothes she was wearing. That was all she had. And I was like, come with me to baggage claim. So I gave her like the last clean clothes I had in my suitcase. Everything else was dirty. And I told her that. I was like, I promise I wish I could give you everything, but like, this is dirty. So I gave her the last clean clothes I had. And I was just like, whatever you need. And we exchanged information, like phone numbers. The next day, my sister took her to Walmart, bought her like toiletries, clothes, anything she needed, because she had nothing. And she actually reached out to me today, and so we're still in contact. But it's things like that where you meet these people, you hear their story, and sometimes that's just what it takes, is like seeing someone who's going through that struggle, and it just like really ignites something in you to do something about it.
No, I totally understand what you're saying, because I grew up here in the 80s. And so that's when we were having a lot of Cubans coming in. And there was a big backlash about all of this influx of people. And, there's the political part of it where, they're not letting out their best. Right. We all have to deal with that. Yeah. But there was a lot of people just escaping for a better life, and the persecution. There was a lot of religious persecution back there. And later on, I meet these people who came here, and to hear their stories about coming through Miami or different parts of Florida, the few people who did come on boats, and what they have contributed. And I think there is, and if we can make an avenue, the vetting, the avenue, things like that, I think people are willing to be open. There's just the scary part of we don't know who they are. Exactly. I think that's the only, for me. Yeah. That's the hard part. Absolutely. But like in your case, I think there's a lot of people like that. We're in that country. The United States of America has always been very open-armed and giving. We just need a process to make it happen.
Of course.
I wish it would happen overnight.
Yeah, me too. And I mean, and I want to be clear too, I believe that the most, important thing for our government to do is first to protect its citizens, because we are citizens of this country, and if they're going to be allowing people to come in, there has to be a vetting process to ensure our safety. But yeah, I think that there needs to be a bigger conversation about it, some more bipartisan communication, and working together to find a resolution. I think there's a lot of polarizing topics, today in politics, and that just happens to be one of them, unfortunately. Yeah. But I think if we have people in office that are able to work together and really just keep at the forefront of their mind bettering the country and the people coming to try and make it also a better country, then I think there could be a really, cool outcome from that.
I agree. I come from a family of immigrants. My grandfather was Italian. My grandmother was Swiss. Yeah. They both came here after World War II. They raised 5 kids, all productive. We all came out. We all turned out fine. Yeah, exactly. But there was a process. So I agree. And I think my point is, I think a lot of people feel like you and I do. We're getting there. Yep. We're just getting there.
It'll just take time.
Yeah. Time, lots of time. Yep. Like we said, we wish it would happen overnight. I know. So tell me, I saw this in your bio, and I have to ask. Okay. The severe weather fascination. Yes. I want to know about this storm chasing.
Yeah. Okay. So I think growing up in Florida, I was born and raised in Sarasota. I remember like Hurricane Charlie coming through, and actually I think it was supposed to hit closer to where I lived at the time, but then it hit a little south.
Towards me.
Yes. And I remember that vividly, like my whole family coming over to my mom's house and my mom setting up like the bathtub just in case, something bad happened with the wind or whatever. And I was actually pretty scared. But naturally, like people get anxious and nervous about things that they aren't educated about, If you educate yourself on something, then you feel more prepared, not maybe as much scared. So growing up in like science classes in school, I would learn more and more about weather and just become fascinated by it. And then I moved to Alabama for school, like after I graduated from high school. And there is much more severe weather happening over there. Of course they get hurricanes too, because like on the Gulf, but where I lived in Birmingham, between Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, there's like more tornadoes.
Yeah, there's a mixture there.
Yes, it's called Dixie Alley. So there's like Tornado Alley in the Midwest, and then like there's this swath of Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia that's called Dixie Alley. And that's where a lot of tornadoes happen as well. So I was not as well versed with tornadoes in Sarasota as I was hurricanes. And so I became very nervous about tornadoes. And again, it was just like, okay, I have to educate myself. Like, where's my safe place? How do I, get updated on severe weather events and all of that stuff? And so I just became very fascinated by a man who is very famous weatherman in Alabama, like legend in the weather community. His name is James Spann. And, you could look him up and find he has like awards and stuff for how just incredible of a meteorologist he is. And so he became the person that I would always like watch his weather videos every morning. Like, okay, what's on the docket today? Is there going to be a storm? What's going on?
Where am I heading today?
Yes, exactly. And, he's written books. I went and like met him at a book signing one time. Super cool guy. But because I experienced many severe weather events in Birmingham and Tuscaloosa that were actually quite scary, like there were tornadoes that happened on those days. Luckily, I wasn't affected by them, but like they were there. I kind of just became interested in learning more about it, and I became less scared and more like, oh, it would be so cool to go storm chasing one day. Not by myself. I don't like trust myself enough to know that. But there's definitely storm chasers that I watch on social media during severe weather event days that I trust that they know what they're doing. I think it'd be so cool to like tag along with them one day. But I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, I can't wait to watch.
Yes,
and find out.
That'd be so fun.
So let's talk about your future projects and plans. What's on next after Miss USA? Because you have how many more months left?
Let's see, about 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's like the $1 million question right now, honestly. I think that I'm so open-minded to different opportunities, and I think that there probably are some that I just haven't even thought about or don't even know that exist yet. But I think for me, like doing some kind of hosting on a television show or like red carpet hosting would be fun, or something in the interior design field, or trying to like marry the two. That's kind of where my head is at the moment, but I'm very open-minded to other things. And I have had people come to me and say like, hey, would you be interested in this or that? And I'm like, you know what, I would be, but I think it is going to take a little bit of trial and error, and it depends on where I'm going to be also. I'm totally fine with traveling. So even if I end up like moving to Virginia and I have to come back down to Miami or up to New York or over to LA, like I have no problem at all traveling. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, who knows?
I like that you're open to the opportunities, though. I think part of just putting it out in the universe and saying, I'm open to see what the universe gives me rather than I need to do this. When you're at a point in your life where you're like, okay, I'm at a crossroads or I'm just ready to try new things, that I think when you put it out there, you really do get something back that's so for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that entirely. I mean, former Miss USAs have gone into the entertainment industry doing like acting. Some do modeling. A very good friend of mine who was Miss USA 2016, Deshauna Barber.
Okay.
She does professional public speaking now, like motivational speaking.
Right.
And she's amazing at it. Like she's had so many speeches go viral. And even at my, I used to work at Restoration Hardware. Every single morning we had like a team meeting and people would bring her speeches as like a topic of our meeting. So there's so many different avenues that they can go. So yeah, I'm open to whatever comes.
I love that. Be open to what the universe brings.
Yeah, exactly.
So as a closing, what advice would you give to other women thinking about getting into the pageant field, thinking about maybe if this is for me, if it's not for me, and how to deal with a little bit of the pushback that you get going, oh, you're a pageant girl.
Yeah.
Or, oh, you're in a pageant. So kind of a dual question there.
Yeah. I would say if you're interested in getting into the pageant world, don't be afraid, I think is like the biggest thing, because I think it can be a scary thing. And for me it was, and for other girls that I knew and encouraged personally to get into it, they were all very anxious. They shared that same anxiety of not knowing what it was going to be like, or, oh, what if I don't win? Don't be afraid, because I just have to be like very frank here. You're not going to win every single pageant you compete in, and that's okay. I did not win every single pageant I competed in, but you just have to, I think, work on your mindset and know why do you want to do it? Really think about that. Like, soul search and think about, what is the purpose of me doing it? Because if it's for the external validation, it's not maybe the best reason to get into it, and could be very mentally damaging if it doesn't go the way that you want it to. So, have a pure purpose for wanting to go into it. Be open-minded to the possibilities that come from it, because before I got into pageants, I did not realize the network of people that I would meet, the opportunities I would be able to have, how it helped me grow as a person in terms of my public speaking, my confidence, learning more about myself, like even down to like my personal style, stuff like that. It really can be a catapult for you and your life if you utilize it as such. So that's my advice, is if you're afraid of doing it, maybe this isn't good advice for people, but just like, please don't be afraid. I beg of you, don't be afraid. Like, push yourself out of your comfort zone and just try it, because you never know what could happen. And if I didn't push myself, if I had continued to be like my shy little turtle of a person, I would not be sitting with you here today. I would not have this sash on me. I would not have the opportunities in front of me that I do in the future. So don't be afraid, and go into it fully knowing that the universe has plans for you that you might not even be aware of, but just trust it.
Trust the process.
Oh my gosh, 100%.
Trust the process.
Trust it.
And what is it? Outside of your comfort zone, there's always a lot of growth.
Yeah.
Even if you don't end up with the title that you're out for, I know that every time I competed, I came away with something. Sometimes it was what not to do. And other times it was like, well, I really nailed it.
Yeah.
This wasn't my day. And to just own, like, not everything goes your way.
Exactly. And just know that when one door closes, another one opens. And I always say, like, there could be 100 doors in front of you and you might get 99 no's, but don't give up at the 99th one, because the 100th was about to be your yes. Right. So just keep going and you will get there eventually. Like, I did not win every pageant I competed in. And of course I wanted every title I competed for, but there was always a reason. I ended up learning later on that I was like, oh, thank goodness I actually didn't win that because XYZ. There was so many different circumstances where I felt grateful that it turned out the way that it did. And again, like I said earlier, timing is everything. And if I had won, Miss Alabama one of the first 2 times I had tried for it and then went to Miss USA, it's very possible I wouldn't have won Miss USA. You know what I mean? Because it was meant that year for someone else.
It wasn't your turn.
It wasn't my
your time. Timing is everything.
And, I ended up going to Utah. I had an amazing experience there. I loved living in Utah. Kind of got to be acquainted with the Hispanic population there. And then, of course, went to Miss USA and won under a new leadership. So timing was truly everything. So that's something else I would like to just remind people of. Yeah,
it was your time. It was your time. Okay. If you had one piece of advice to give to a young person today, just one, what would it be?
I would say know who you are. Really, really do some soul searching, because what I have seen happen to people, not even only in the pageant industry, but professionally, like in my personal life and career, is that if you don't know who you are or what you are wanting in life, you can feel a bit lost and you don't know what your purpose is. And I think if you're able to figure that out earlier on in your life, and it might change, but at least you can get yourself on the right track. I think that you can really hone in on the positive things that you can bring to the world around you and to your life, because I let my anxiety get the best of me for a very long time, and it kept me, I think, from doing that soul searching that I felt was necessary. And it was finally once I got involved in pageantry and I met with a coach who encouraged me to do that and literally write out in a journal the reasons why I wanted to do that and who I was, that it finally like unlocked my potential, and it started giving me the clear answers and pathways to the things that made me happy and how I could impact other people positively. So just know who you are. Don't be afraid to do some soul searching. Have conversations with people that maybe can help you with that, because I know it can be a little bit hard. But if you know who you are, then I think you're pretty set.
Well, I have to say, it has been such a great time getting to know you better and getting to talk to you. It has been such a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much. I loved getting to sit and chat with you. I feel like we got to cover topics that I haven't previously spoken about. So that's really fun. And it was beautiful. Thank you so much for having me.
No, you're very welcome. Thank you. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today on the Kristen Weardon Show. And I will see you next time.